Hey everyone, it is Leandra at the new Vocations facility here in Lexington and in the ring right now. Hello, I have no idea what you all just saw. I had a phone call come in. I don't really know how Facebook Live handles that. So hopefully you weren't totally taken for a video ride there. So here we have Allie working with one of our new horses, Gumtree Lane. He's a really pretty gray who's decided to make himself kind of brown. But what she's working on right now is lunging him. You can see we're in the round pen, and please excuse that it's a little bit of a jungle right now. Those are really thorny bushes, so they're not that easy to go just yank out, and it's been too rainy to spray them. But we're enjoying some sun at the moment. So here Allie's working Gumtree Lane in our round pen on the lunge line with the ProSix equine device, we'll call it. It's kind of like if you use resistance bands. It's like resistance bands that we can put on their body. So the benefit of using the ProSix is that it really makes the horses aware of where their legs are. They feel the resistance. That's a direct communication line, basically. So it's sort of a soft tension that they have to work their body actively to move with and against. And it's sort of like a reminder. You can see there's a strap that goes under the belly, works the abdomen, so it works to help them in a lot of different ways, both in symmetry and balance, but then also in just muscle use. So the reason that we're having Allie lunge him in the ProSix is because he came with no known soundness issues, but what he was exhibiting here in turnout, but then also when we started him under saddle, and then when we were jogging him in the barn, he was asymmetrical in his gaits. And you could see that his hips were moving fairly balanced. So in assessing like a skeletal structure, you can look at how their hips are moving. He's moving pretty symmetrically. You know, obviously when they're moving in a circle, you're going to have moments where it changes, and some of it's right now is lack of effort. But so if you just look at how his hips are moving in the back, he's actually moving pretty freely on both sides. So what we were thinking was, sure, many of them could use a chiropractic adjustment when they come in, and so he's certainly on the list to be evaluated by our chiropractor when he comes in. But more so what we were noticing was that the muscle issues seem to be the root of his imbalance. So this has really helped us to look at how he's moving when he's being subconsciously engaged, and you can see he's actually stepping up really nicely at parts, and sometimes he's a little lazier. But it's really common with horses coming from the track that they just need time to let down, especially with their muscles. They just carry a lot of tension. That can happen really commonly in their shoulders and in their hind end. So sometimes they just need time to relax, and you can do that by turning them out and just giving them time to romp around and be horses. And with Gumtree, he's not great at just naturally being a sort of casual horse. He's more of a high-strung athlete right now. So if we were just going to turn him out, I'd be worried about him hurting himself. So this is a really great tool to be able to engage his muscles, but in a different sort of way. So he's getting a workout that's pretty passive, and it's teaching him to use his muscular structure better, which will benefit him in the long run. So we're really enjoying this tool. We really don't endorse many products, but this is one that our chiropractor recommended to us because a chiropractic adjustment is only good if you have the muscles to support it. I mean, it may be good in the short term, but as far as really the longevity of the adjustment and its ability to help them in the long run is going to depend a lot on having the muscular structure to help them out with that. So it looks like I have a couple of questions coming in. Where do we get one? Well, their website, I believe, is ProSix.com. But I would say Erica, I think, is watching, and she can hopefully send the link. If you do decide you want one, they are very generously offering anybody who decides to get one, if you use the new Vocations promo, which is literally the word new, and so NEWVO 25, that you'll get $25 off, and then they actually send us that money as a donation, so it kind of helps us as well. But we just reached out to them because we had this great recommendation, and I didn't know what to expect when we first started, and we've just been over the moon with the results, because otherwise it can be really frustrating to try to rework their muscles in a really even and balanced way when that's not their default, given that their training is primarily one-sided, going to the left on the track. And that's what he felt like riding him. He had very much a left bend and not very much a right bend, so he just used his muscles differently. That's why he steps a little bit shorter in the right. That's why he has a really, really strong inside left shoulder, and he braces on it in the bit. And so he's getting this relatively easy on their joints, and you know, you don't have to really like work him under saddle, but he's getting this great muscle workout, so we're really thrilled with it. Lori says, I'm having a very difficult time getting my thoroughbred to go in that direction. He'll only go one way. Any tips? Well, that is, I think, going to be mostly a muscle issue. So something like this is a really great way to work that, but with almost anything else, I like to always go back to laterals and transitions, because I think you can do a lot with that. So I think in a previous video I even talk about, like, if a horse has a really strong side or a really weak side, that you work the weak side indirectly, so you don't have to really force them to go the direction that they're weaker at or don't like going, or where they brace. You can use laterals to really engage the weaker side while not arguing. You're not starting an argument with your horse if that's something, especially with the young ones, that they are objective to. You know, you want to, the only way you're going to really be able to work with them well is to go a path that has less resistance. And that doesn't mean letting them get away with things, but just knowing that if they're bracing, that you're not going to get a release. If they're fighting you, they're not going to remember that as you know, something that they want to do all the time, that they want to repeat. Like, you will continue to have that tension between you. So there are times when you really have to engage them, make them do things that they don't want to do, but that's not really what I'm getting at. It's that, you know, if you're always fighting against them, that you're not going to get those releases that are going to work those supple muscles. You're just going to sometimes reinforce painful areas. I hope that makes sense. I believe you can buy the ProSix in the US and Canada. And then if anybody has any other questions, feel free to type them in the comments box. And we're going to go on a journey. So for those of you tuning in, you can follow with me now. So we just saw Allie working with a pretty new horse in our training program named Gumtree Lane. And what we're going to do, and Dom doesn't know we're coming, so this could be fun. Hopefully she's not about to get off. But Dom is working with Pooker T in the ring. And one of the things that I really wanted to focus on, because I hear it a lot, is how do I get my horse to drop its head and to supple. So going back to getting a horse to release, we work with a lot of horses here, because they're all off the track, who are used to carrying themselves in a very different way. So the exercise riders, you know, you talk with them about how they ride the horse, a lot of them are actually sort of supporting, they're carrying an upright position, has the horse almost, you know, not that they're thinking about the specific carriage, but by keeping their heads up like that, the horses a lot of times are inverting their backs, develops a really strong forehand, and does not help them as much with the top line things that we might think about in other career paths off the track. So that even though you'll get a horse who's a fantastic athlete and maybe ran a lot, they could still have a really weak top line and hind end when you're asking them to do other things. So in that transition, you really want to be able to guide them through that process. Hey, Dom. So Pooker T, one of the things we've worked on a lot with her is getting her to supple through her forehand and in her mouth and carry a longer, lower, stretchier gait. You can see that she really has done a great job of developing her belly, not so much her top line, and this is not a broodmare. It's just a really easy keeper. So I like to use very simple bits. I don't like to use leverage bits. Not big leverage anyway. So what's in Pooker T's mouth right now is the Steuben Soft Touch Boucher bit, which has a rounded center link. And what that does is it distributes the pressure more evenly across their mouth. So they're not going to have one big point that's on the top of their, the roof of their mouth. It's going to distribute that pressure more evenly across their tongue and on the bars. But the Boucher is really interesting because it has a little bit of a drop down, so it attaches to the cheek piece, and then there's a little bit of a drop down. So when the rider lifts their hands, they can have a slight amount of leverage, but not just in when you have a drop that's below the mouth. It's a much different type of leverage than this kind, which attaches to the cheek piece. So when you lift your hand, it's actually putting pressure on the crown piece. So it's encouraging them to drop their head because it's putting some of the pressure behind their ears on that piece. So when you need to ask for a little more, they're actually getting it from not just their mouth, not just their face, but their whole head, and engaging the neck muscles, and hopefully, if you're doing it right, and getting them to engage all that top line. So you can see there are moments when Pooker T puts her head up still, and this, I think people interpret a lot of different ways, especially when she opens her mouth. Wow, that's my face. I have no idea how I did that. There we go. What she's doing is, in one part, you have a young horse who's learning. In two part, she's also showing that she's trying to work the new muscles, but maybe isn't comfortable in it all the time. So imagine yourself trying to develop new muscles at the gym. You might say, wow, that was a workout, or wow, this is really using a new muscle. You can see Dom's taking a lot of walk breaks and working with her, letting her stretch out, and then asking her again. This is a really great way to work your horse without mentally frying them. A great rule of thumb is that for a 3-year-old, you really shouldn't be asking them for more than 30 minutes of really engaged riding time. And then you can apply that to 40 minutes or a 4-year-old, and every individual is going to be a little bit different, but just think about that. You know, a 3-year-old really doesn't need a lot of extended time. As they get older, they can usually engage themselves mentally a little bit more. They won't get so emotionally fried, but like, you don't ask a toddler to sit there in a classroom and like read a textbook for an hour. It just, you really have to consider their mental maturity. And look, you can see her now stretching down. But I can go into a little more detail at another time if people want to learn more about how we ask them to drop their heads down, other than selecting a bit that is going to distribute pressure more evenly and better for the job that you're asking them to do. We can go into bits. I know somebody asked about saddle fitting, so you can definitely talk about that. But those are just some really quick tips on that regard. And it looks like you guys are just at the end of your workout, so we'll sign out for today. Thanks for letting us jump into your exercise session right at the end there. She's looking really good. And thank you everybody for tuning in. If you have any ideas for future videos, it doesn't just have to be a Trainer Tip Tuesday. We can hop on whenever you guys want. We're working through some more complicated lameness issues that we weren't expecting with a lot of the horses, so you're not going to see maybe as much of the meet and greets right now as we're trying to assess them all, but we're really happy to show you whatever we can. So there's Pooker T, and thanks so much for tuning in. Bye bye.